So hey everybody, it's Tara here with Healing Adventures, where we inspire, motivate, and activate your truth, your passion, and your mission on this planet. So I am here today with the most amazing Jennifer Conroy, who is just one of the most beautiful people to me.
Thank you.
I know you look at me like,
thank you. Yeah,
Jennifer and I met doing some seminars with Landmark Education, and it was this immediate connection when we met. And, you know, as all of you know, I do interviews with ordinary people living extraordinary lives, and Jennifer is just somebody who's always inspired me. She has this amazing company called Two Goats Pottery, which we will meet the goats in the pottery in a bit, and we're also going to talk about how you can find Jennifer and actually come down and take some classes with her. But she's also an entrepreneur. She's a real estate investor. She's also a real estate renovation addict, you call yourself. Yeah. She's a second generation potter. So I really wanted to talk to her today about her journey. Hate to say it, but I would say out of conformity. And I think I say that because really my intention is to inspire people to really fully live your dream and your purpose. And Jennifer is one of these people to me who I have seen has just gone above and beyond and created the life she loves. So without further ado, I feel like I'm sweating here, Miss Jennifer.
I'm learning to use glasses, so if I do this a lot, just, you know.
It's all good.
Excuse my...
the readers, our readers of the day. Yeah. So yeah, I want to talk with Jennifer today. A few things we're going to be talking about is, you know, breaking through the molds of not being enough, breaking through the molds of meeting your needs, also the following the dollar versus following your passion. So those will be some of the things that we'll talk about today, but I just want to say hello and thank you for being here. And
Thanks
I'm so, I'm just so honored, honestly.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah,
thanks for coming to my house.
Yes.
It's just nice to have you here, and
the
birds are chiming in.
We have this grackle here. He wants to be a part, so we're going to allow him to be a part of our experience because he has been hanging out for a while here. But yeah, so Jennifer, tell me about Jennifer. Tell me about your journey, your process. You know, because you've done so many things. You're a scientist. You're a business owner. You have your own pottery company. You've created this miraculous compound here in downtown Austin, which is beautiful. And so I encourage all of you, those of you who are in the Austin area, we'll give you all the information towards the end, but I encourage you to come check out her pottery. It's amazing, and she does pottery classes for couples, for parents with children, just really date nights, just a lot of fun things. And then we'll also be talking about she's going to be opening her home for a huge art walk that will be happening as well. But just before we get there, tell me a little bit about your journey and really how you got here.
So we talked about it a little bit ago, and I think that, you know, what's important to say is that I just started like everybody else, not knowing what I wanted to be.
Yeah.
And liberal arts degree. And, you know, I grew up the parent of an academic on one hand and an artist on the other hand, and so, you know, there's always that pull in both directions. Mm-hmm. Of course, you know, everyone's parents will say, you know, don't be an artist because you're not going to make any money.
Right.
And so I followed the track of not being an artist, and did the liberal arts degree, and then still wasn't sure what I wanted to do. I always wanted to work in the helping professions. Mm-hmm. I took a couple psychology classes in college, did not do well. Somebody said, don't do social work, you'll get burned out immediately. And so I did an English degree. I was a terrible reader, and I thought, well, let me at least learn to read. And but I did like to write, and so I did an English degree, liberal arts undergrad, and ended up not too long after that. I worked for a year in Belize for a nonprofit, and then the next year I ended up going to graduate school or applying for graduate school in public health, which is a really nice broad field. I like the idea of helping people, but I think I would get impatient with maybe helping one person at a time, so like psychology or counseling or social work.
Right.
I liked that public health is a broad field, and you make system-wide changes and find solutions for whole populations. Because my dad was he worked in social justice issues, and he was a huge influence on me. And so, I always grew up with this, change the world perspective, like what's my impact going to be, how am I going to change the world? And so public health did some of that for me. I did my master's and doctorate at UT School of Public Health in Houston, and worked at MD Anderson after that. And I had a really nurturing graduate school experience. I can't say enough. I actually met with my mentor just the other day for the first time in several years.
That's amazing.
And we both talked about what a great time that was. And he was somebody who did not have a lot of ego, who was happy for me to put my name first if we were going to publish papers, and always would say, what do you need, and then would guide me. And I think it's just really important to have mentors along the way.
Absolutely.
And I'm really grateful. I just fell into that. I didn't know that. I didn't know that I needed a mentor. I didn't know that I needed somebody who would sit me down and go, these are your strengths and these are your weaknesses.
Right.
But I was really lucky to have that. Graduate school was focusing on child and adolescent behavior, and a lot of tobacco stuff, because that's where the funding was at the time. I was really interested in reproductive health for kids, and went to school in Houston where, it was a pretty conservative environment, and we ended up I was interested in working for a project that ended up getting shut down because they were talking about reproductive health with kids.
Interesting.
And they got defunded, or they got kicked out of the community. Actually, they didn't get defunded, but the funding, they had to stop the project.
Right.
So so that was sort of my entrance in 1995 into public health, and so I wasn't going to do reproductive health. I ended up going into actually school violence prevention, and then also tobacco, because that's where the funding was with all the R.J. Reynolds stuff and the Joe Camel and all of that.
Yeah.
And it was rewarding. It was rewarding to work with those people. It was rewarding to form those relationships. And so, wanting to make a difference, I felt like I was making a difference, but I didn't feel like I was necessarily driving the boat, and it wasn't fast enough for me. And I'm a creative person, so it was also, you write the grant, you'd say, we're going to do this exactly, and then we get into it, and we'd be halfway through, and I'd be like, wait, but I want to change the methods, I want to change the intervention that we're using. But really, in science, you have to use the intervention that you propose, and then you test it, and then you evaluate it, and you see if it works, and if it doesn't, you figure out why, and lessons learned, and all of this. And I'm just too much of a creative person to stay in that place. I mean, I have a tremendous amount of respect for it, but I'm not. I want to make it up as I go along.
Well, talk about that drive that you said was occurring all the while.
And so, I mean, I think in the beginning it was partly a good thing, because I was driven to work hard for my mentors, and just to really contribute and really be a strong part of the team. But there was also a part of that, and I didn't really discover it until later, that was really sort of fear-driven. A part that was about survival, a part that was about, nobody's going to take care of me when I'm grown up, so I have to do it myself. And so I have to figure it out, and I have to, I just have to make it work. And I have to, being driven by the dollar, being driven by also ego. There's certainly ego was involved, and what are people going to think of me, and what do my mentors think of me, and what do my parents think of me, and am I keeping up with all the people I grew up with, and am I good enough? And there's always that voice in the back going, are you enough? Are you enough? Are you smart enough? Are you attractive enough? And there's always also the dream of growing up, finding the perfect partner, living in the perfect house, having, doing the trips, having the kids, and all of this. And so there was, I think that a lot of it was in not knowing what I wanted to do. It was an effort to just keep up and at least position myself well for whatever it was that I was going to fall in love with doing, but hadn't yet. And so, but there was a lot of drive involved. And, I was at UT School of Public Health and worked on several projects as a research assistant, and we wrote a grant, and I ended up getting funded with partnering with MD Anderson Cancer Center. And MD Anderson was a different environment. It was a lot more competitive. It was a lot less nurturing, a lot less supportive. My direct boss was a very nice guy and was super supportive of me, but the environment and the department director and all of that, you tend to get your hand slapped if you were overly creative or if you didn't give, I guess, your project ideas to somebody else. It was a lot. It's a great institution, but it was just hard. And as a young person, I was 28, I think, 29 when I finished my doctorate degree and went to work for MD Anderson. And I still consider that a young person.
Yes, well, it is. We're still young people, Jennifer. We're still young people, okay?
And that was 20 years ago. And so I just dated myself, but it was. And I still feel like, gosh, I need a lot of guidance and, how do I make these decisions? And back then, especially. And so, in that context, I think that I definitely overworked myself. I ended up going on a road trip with a girlfriend. We drove over the Christmas holidays to the Grand Canyon, and we had a fabulous time. But one of the things she said to me along the way, and I'm really grateful to her, to Anna, for saying that I was not myself. And I was working really hard.
How did it feel when she said that
driven.
to you? Did you recognize it in the moment?
Absolutely. It was the truth.
Yeah.
I recognized it, I connected with it, and I absolutely felt like that was also what I wanted to find in going on this road trip was why, take a deep breath and, step out of the rat race for just a minute and ask myself, who am I and who do I want to be?
Yeah.
And I remember when I was at MD Anderson, I had a little sticky that I'd posted on my cubicle that said, don't spend a day doing something that you don't want to do. Not even a day. And I was like, wow, gosh.
Right?
A day?
That's profound.
Like, how about the last, couple years? It's not that I didn't want to do it, but it was exhausting. And I was really driving myself.
It's almost like waking up to all that I've been doing. Is it for me or was it for something or someone else?
Right.
Yeah.
Is it for the ego? Is it for fame? Is it for
programmed.
notoriety?
Yeah, we're so programmed.
Is it for money?
Go do all these things. Graduate from high school, go to college, get your degree, get the good job, get the man or the woman, and get this and get that and get that. And I was talking to a dear friend the other night. I said, we're so programmed to always be looking for what's next, that we don't even stop to look at what we've accomplished.
Yeah. Well,
we're so
even
busy
more
trying to get to the next thing.
It's funny that you say what we've accomplished. I would say we are not here present in the moment.
Yes.
Like, oh, what's happening? Oh, there's an amazing, beautiful garden. Oh, there's a grackle. Oh, we're sitting here conversing.
Yes.
We are so, thinking about, well, what are we doing this afternoon? What's after that? What's for dinner? How are we going to? And so, and that's something I really want to still learn now. And I still struggle with. Being in the moment and just saying, wow, this is amazing right now. And, it doesn't matter what happens next. It's just, it's all about what we have at this very moment.
Right now.
Like, I love to write, but there was a lot of technical writing, which, I always loved to write creatively, but there's a lot of technical writing, and I loved that too, but I didn't like the editing process. I didn't like the references and the going back and just reconfiguring little tiny things. And I just don't have a lot of patience for the detail. I'm like a big picture person and just drive and get that big, which is terrible because it's the same thing when I'm doing remodeling. I'm just like, okay, let's get the big picture going. And then like, oh wait, I never put trim on that wall. So you see that as you walk around my house, which is sort of, I tell people I'm an impressionist, right? So I'm an impressionist.
Beautiful, I love it.
But yeah, thank you. But and so I realized in the academic world, publish or perish, and I really didn't see myself going down that track for a long time. And I can't say I left that right away, but I did move away from the academic field, and I moved back to Austin, and I worked for a nonprofit with at-risk youth for about a year, and then I worked in government. I was still sort of searching, the at-risk youth and nonprofit just didn't pay anything. And I liked it, but it was not a great fit. And then the government health department work was, it was not the right fit for me. And it wasn't until I went to the forum, the landmark, that I realized that, you know, I was angry because people aren't, you know, come on, let's go. And here I'd come from, you know, one of the most prestigious medical research agencies, MD Anderson, in the world, to the local health department. And I was like, you know, you guys don't know what you're doing, and you know, why are you not here ready to go, and why are we not making all this progress? And you know, so I was pushy, and I was angry a lot of the time, and I was frustrated with my colleagues, and I was frustrated with the sort of laid back, you know, I'm like, we have funding, we've got to get going, let's go, you know. Right. And I think that there was part of the community that appreciated that, because there was somebody that was like, okay, we're really on it and make it happen. But I was also just not happy. I was frustrated and wanted to make things go faster, and wanted to accomplish more, and wanted, you know, in essence, wanted things to be different. Yeah. And it wasn't until the forum that I realized, you know, oh, wait a minute, these people are exactly where they should be. They're doing what they do. They're doing what normal, you know, local health departments do, and I don't fit. You know, I'm the one who doesn't. So with the forum, with the introduction to the forum, I created that I wanted to work with people that are inspired and motivated and ambitious and creative. And, you know, I was really looking sort of to get back to the kind of people that I'd worked with in graduate school. I had amazing mentors there, and I was lucky to have the mentors that I did. I didn't realize that I needed mentoring, and I, you know, to have somebody sit down and go, okay, these are your strengths, and these are areas that we can improve. And, you know, that was both in terms of what classes I should take, but also like hard skills and soft skills. How are you doing in this area? You have a lot of this and you don't have this. And some people that were really nurturing and really gentle with me, that did that mentoring. And so when I was wanting to lead or wanting to improve things at the health department, I didn't even know what I was going to do when I just did the introduction to Landmark. I left that one night 3-hour session that was led by Andrew. Oh, that's awesome. We love you, Andrew. That was led by Andrew, and I went home and I wrote my resignation letter at the health department, and at the very same time I created a business card for myself that said Jennifer Conroy, Doctor of Public Health, Community Health Strategist, and all this stuff. And I just started handing it out in my meetings, because I had the opportunity to meet all sorts of community folks when I was at the health department. And so I'm grateful to the health department, and I love the people that are down there, and they do really good work. It was a shift for me to go from research and academia into local health department, because you know, there's a different beast. Well, and there's all sorts of research that shows the disconnect between what's happening in the academic research world and the science world, and what's the reality, and when you try to apply something, and you know, how do you make that connect? And so that actually ended up being my niche for consulting. So I made that business card and I handed it out and had lots of connections in the community, and so I consulted for the next 10 years, and had, you know, some work with some really good people, and had the opportunity also to have a couple of big bread and butter projects, and that gave me enough free time, so I didn't have to be, you know, 8 to 5 every day, that I could start getting back to my creative self.
Well, what I love is that, you know, you take this journey of from childhood to college, push all through college, you do all the things right, you then go, you get the degrees, you go work for the academia, you then transition out, and then you're even, you know, the next level, you're woken up again and realizing this is still not it. Yeah. And I love that. And then you transition yet again.
Yeah. Yeah. So when I had more time, and then I was able to make a little bit more money, I started investing in real estate, and I had purchased my first house. Yeah, I had purchased my first house when I moved back to Austin. remodeled it on a shoestring. You know, I was making, I think, $30,000 a year working in nonprofit, and you know, evenings and weekends, and that's this house here. And
Which is beautiful. It's a beautiful
yeah,
house.
and my parents, when I bought this house, were like, "Oh no, what have you done?" You know, it was a mess. It was a disaster. And you know, I think that that's one of the biggest lessons for me is when you have an idea. It's a lot of times it's not nearly as hard to execute. Like it's 90% cojones, you know,
Yep.
and 10% effort.
Right.
And so if you just do it and move yourself into that space,
Right.
and
Amen.
that's the scariest thing though, is making that move and just doing it.
Is it really scary though?
Yes, it's scary.
is?
Oh yeah. You know, I think
Is it scary or exciting?
well, that's it's both.
'Kay,
And when
'cause
you're
I-
on that edge of scary and exciting, you're moving in the right direction. That's what
Right.
I've learned.
Okay.
Is if it's scary and exciting, do it.
And what would you tell people? What is? So there you are in scary and exciting.
Yeah.
The majority of people say, "Nah, I'll stay comfortable." What is it within you that when you see scary and exciting, you're like, "Okay, jumping in." Like, what is that within you? Who are you that you're willing to risk and you have the cojones to move forward?
You know, I think what it comes down to is I tell myself I'm a smart person. I have a lot of resources, and I'm not talking about financial resources. I'm talking about friends and family who love me. I'm talking about skills. I'm talking about willingness to, you know, work at a coffee shop if I need to make the extra money.
Right.
I'm really good at saving money. You know, I don't have to spend a lot of money or go out to eat or, you know, buy a Starbucks coffee, you know, every day. And so I think it's just pulling myself, hi Odie.
Hi, Odie.
Good boy. Pulling myself up to the 30,000 foot view
Yeah.
and going, am I going to be homeless? No.
No.
You know, maybe it won't work. Yeah. What's the worst thing? And Landmark helped me do that because, you know, it says, what's your worst fear? And then put yourself in that place. Okay, now that's happened. Now what's your worst fear now? And the truth is, you know, I'm not going to die.
Nope.
I'm not going to starve.
No.
That's definitely not an issue for me.
No.
I'm not going to be homeless.
No.
And, you know, worst case scenario, you know, maybe I'll lose some money or maybe it just won't work. Right. And so I think that stepping back from the jumble of questions and uncertainty that we just get absorbed in and just putting that over there and going, okay, questions and uncertainty.
Right.
You are allowed to exist.
Yes.
Now, you know, just pulling back and looking at does it pull my heart? You know, what's in my heart and what's my vision? And you know, and then also just sort of exercising the muscle of, oh, I'm at exciting and uncertain and scary. Like, oh, this is when really exciting things happen, all sorts of changes, right? And so,
Right.
yeah.
I laugh because I am one of those people.
Yeah.
You know, many people would be like, "What the hell is she thinking?"
Yeah,
I'm living.
Yeah.
You know, and I call that living.
Yeah. One of the things it's a James Michener quote that's, you know, basically about work and play, and you want to have both work and have play. And not recognize the difference, and that's been something that's
True.
guided me for a long time. Is that I want my work to feel like my play, and my play to feel like my work. And I am somebody who, you know, I am driven just sort of naturally. I can't sit still. I like to do stuff. I like to get stuff done.
See, and I think that's a great point because I see just what you said there. That is, to me, that is the context of mission. That is the context of your inner mission. Is when it's your work is your play, and your play is your work.
Yeah.
That there is no, you know, when we are living at that level instead of I do what I do in order to make money, or I do what I do in order to take care of the kids. I do what I do because it brings me joy.
Yeah, right. And that's, and I have to say my mom's been an amazing inspiration for that. My mom's an artist. She's a potter. She's 76 now, and she still goes into work every single day and makes pots and takes orders and does commissions and loads the kiln and unloads the kiln and makes glazes and,
Loves it.
and she loves it.
It's
And,
amazing.
Sunday comes and it's her day off and she's like, oh, but I really want to make this blah, blah, blah. Like, oh my gosh, if we could all have that sort of like, she grew up and she's been doing it for 42 years. And
Yes.
so I envy that she grew up and was like, I'm going to do this. She found one thing and she just has stuck with
Loves
it for
it.
so long. And, I like to reinvent myself every couple of years. And I'm a very curious person. I'm always looking for my next thing. And so, and so that's what took me from consulting into remodeling. I mean, I loved when I bought this house. I loved making changes. I loved taking walls out and putting in new windows and putting stained glass or putting tile details. And I just really liked that process. And I also got a lot of feedback from people. Oh, that's beautiful. And, that definitely keeps you going.
Yes.
And so then I also realized, oh gosh, if I can save, $10 or $15 or $20,000, back then, that was enough for down payment and a shoestring remodel job. And then somebody else could be paying the mortgage as rent. And so that's kind of how I got into.
And that's how you continued to grow that side.
Yeah, I had a couple friends who, my best friend's grandmother did that in this neighborhood actually, and then the guy that I bought my house from, this house, also had rental property, and I just was like, oh wow, that's really cool. Like instead of putting your money in the bank, you can have it in a property, and then watching property values go up in Austin has been insane.
Oh my God, yeah.
And so
I'd like to also ask, this is all just fascinating to me. This is awesome, so thank you. Inside of this journey, on the day that your girlfriend said, you're different,
you're not yourself.
Something, and then it clicked for you. And as you, over the years, here you are now with your investments, your pottery, your art, you're getting into that even more. How have you healed or grown as a human through that process? How have you, who has Jennifer grown into?
That the last question's, I think, the hardest question, but
Who is she growing into?
Yeah, that's that. So it's funny, somebody asked me, I guess it was my poetry teacher. So I'm taking a poetry class and fiction. It's poetry, fiction writing, and I'm also taking an oil painting class. And I just love my classes. And I just had a blackout. What was I going to go with that? Oh, yeah.
Who is Jennifer becoming?
Yeah, and she writes these daily prompts. We get a prompt, and then you have to just, she'll write 4 or 5 words, and the words were, why were you born? Or I was born because, so when I was born, I wrote I was born to laugh and play and, dance and whatever. And then when I was 3, my father yelled at my mother and said, where are the effing keys? And then I was born to fix. And so I became the it's going to be okay woman. And it's interesting because
that's intense. That's
great. And so this is one of the things I learned in landmark stuff is, what was my earliest sort of problem moment, trauma. And my parents divorced when I was 3. Dad was walking through and he was frustrated because he was late, of course, and so he's like, where are the effing keys? And that's my earliest memory. And I became a fixer at that time. And like I said, in graduate school, I wanted to be a helper. And so that became my identity in so many ways. And so, and I took that for a really long time, for 40 years or so, to be the helper, to be the fixer. And it wasn't until I realized, and it's actually been really recently, because I did a lot of parenting of my mom. And, she's wonderful, but I decided somehow that she needed to be, and when I was 3, I sat down next to her and I said, Mom, it's going to be okay. And she tells me that. She's like, I couldn't believe, what is the 3-year-old, saying that to me. And And so that became my role, and
I love that you said your identity.
my identity, and
Yeah.
and that was also partly why I was so driven, is because I had to be the parent and I had to be the one to fix things. So I was holding the bag and I was the one accountable. And so, again, sort of all this fear-based, working super hard to make sure that I could hold everything together.
Right, right.
It wasn't until I realized, my mom has survived. She's fine. She doesn't need me as much as I think she needs me, or as much as I would like her to need me, right? Okay, so, and it just took a lot of learning. And it was actually early this year because I don't know what happened what happened was I started working at her shop with her in Pottery. And we had lots of differences and lots of head banging because, I wanted her to be more business focused, and I wanted her to be more accountable to customers and not forget orders and not, and not fire stuff before it was dry and blah, blah, blah. And finally, we just, had it out, and I came away and I was super angry with her that whole time. And it wasn't until earlier this year that I realized, how hard it must be for her to have grown up with us being so critical of her and thinking that she was so weak and not really giving her credit for being who she is, and strong, incredibly creative, incredibly fun and playful. And instead, I wanted her to be serious
and
parent.
Giving those gifts to you.
Yes, she did give those gifts to me.
Which is amazing.
And so I really have to credit her a lot with me being able to come to a place myself that I can really focus on my creativity and have that an integral part of my life.
So beautiful.
So we've had a wonderful year. She's taking these classes with me at the community college.
That's fun.
Yes, art and poetry both. And anyway, so your question was about healing. So
my question is, who's Jennifer growing into? Who
So first I became the fixer. That was, until this year. And now, and actually when I left, it was 3 years ago that I left public health, and I'd remodeled enough houses that I could live off of the rent. And at that point I really started focusing on healing and pulling my identity away from the resume and away from, the public health girl that, did all this work in the community. And not because it wasn't terrible work. It was just I really felt a pull to be more creative. Right. And I also saw this opportunity now that I had remodeled these houses that I could actually financially afford to pour myself into the creative.
Which is awesome.
And so the last 3 years have really been about healing. And allowing myself.
None of this happened overnight. This was a process.
Oh yeah,
it takes time.
Oh yeah. But it also always helps to, I think, look for mechanisms to, like I said, when you're going this direction, landmark is like you're going this direction and you want a life change. Just
bumped off.
Knock yourself, like you said, with that moment of fear and that moment of excitement.
Jump.
Take it. That's the jump that you want to take.
Yeah.
And that's when you have an opportunity to really get to that next level and that new epiphany and that new revelation.
And totally standing in the unknown. Like
totally
just standing and that's even scary. And I remember, I don't know if did you do any of the wisdom courses or partnership?
No.
So, and we'll talk a lot about we talk about Landmark because they've got a number of programs that her and I both experienced. But in the partnership course, they opened up the weekend with, imagine you're on a boat in the middle, or you're on a life raft in the middle of the ocean, but there's no land around you. There's nothing around you, nowhere. It's just you on this life raft. But then all of a sudden, the life raft is gone. Like it somehow, I don't remember what happens, but next thing, it's just you in the middle of the ocean.
Swim.
Yeah. And
as Dory says, just keep swimming.
Just keep swimming. But it was like even how they set that whole stage, because we were all visualizing this, and as you set it up, it's like the panic sets in because you're in the middle of the ocean and there's nothing around you.
Well, and I have to say, when I left MD Anderson, my mentor said, "You're throwing your career away."
And I love those people.
It was heartbreaking because I did love those people.
Yes.
And I still love those people.
Yes.
But they also all always said, well, we really want to move to Austin. I was like, see ya, I'm going back to Austin. But, and so it took me from the time I left MD Anderson, and then, well, I don't even know how many years. It took me so many years to first rest, and that happened after the forum. I did the forum in 2006, and I started my consulting business in 2006. It took me 10 years to rest from having been so driven and so much like, okay, you got to perform, got to meet this deadline, got to, make this impression. And
I love that 10 years to rest. All the while you're living life, but like on a spiritual, etheric level, your body's having to completely shift and transform.
Well, and this is all about saying I'm enough.
Yeah,
I'm enough. It's
right.
okay. I'm enough. And even then, when I left consulting was 2015. That was 3 years ago. It was really hard for me to let go of that identity. So, like, at first I didn't want to be seen in public during the day because I'm walking around in shorts and a t-shirt. I need to be doing something serious. And just to shift that identity to it's okay to have your shit together and not actually be working an 8 to 5 job and not be performing all the time and not be producing all the time, because having grown up with a dad who worked in social justice to save the world, like, you're not saving the world now. Like, what are you doing if you're not saving the world now? I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm not saving the world. I better get to work.
You're saving this world
right?
now. You're saving
this world. And so,
it's
really been, and my brother's a photographer, and that also helped sort of give me permission to focus on beauty and focus on art. And my friend who lives across the street, she's a professor of environmental science, and we like to have these sort of profound life conversations. And I asked her, I said, well, what's the legacy that you want to leave in the world? And she said, and I love this, she said, I just kind of want to live a good life. I don't feel like I have to leave a legacy. And there's a lot of pressure, and I do want to leave a legacy, but I just really appreciated the, again, permission to just, to live and be a good person and also make little impacts here and there. And so, now, I mean, I do my CASA volunteering, and I do feel like I make an impact that way. And I think also just being a role model for people who are super stressed out and super depressed, that it's okay to step off the out of the rat race and step off the wheel.
Well, and I mean, you bring up such a good point, and think,
then being happy myself. I know that I can't make an impact in the world if I'm not healthy and happy.
And that's, that this exactly goes back to my whole intention of this channel, is that, to inspire and motivate and activate people to do just that. It's like we don't, I think we talk about identities. At one time, I wanted to save the world in the world of relationships and romance, and I wanted to transform divorce and all this stuff. And, and I do believe that we still do that, but it starts with us.
Yeah.
And when we, it's like what you're saying, when we slow down and we rest and we take care of this world. Yeah. It's almost, and this is something that they don't teach us. When you take care of this world, you impact that world times 10.
Yeah, right, exactly.
And we forget, I don't know that people know that.
We don't, we're not taught how to take care of ourselves.
No, we're taught to drive ourselves into the ground, and then you can impact nobody. And you'll be lucky if you do. You probably had a lot of money to get there, but really it's about, when you take care of this world here, that reverberates out into the planet like tenfold. And you have more energy to go and creativity.
Well, and the other thing we're not taught is community. Yeah, we're not taught to connect with other people. Important. We're not taught to rely on other people. We're taught to be this pillar of strength, and so that's another thing that's happening for me right now. Is I just have an amazing community of friends and really interesting people, and we share things like we all love to learn, and we love to make a difference, but we also just love to hear from each other and support each other and be healthy together and move the community forward as a unit, as opposed to just all of the separateness.
Yeah, and
we
I
experience
love
these
that
days.
because I feel that that's just right in line with all this paradigm shifting that's occurring. You know,
Yeah.
we are evolving, we are changing, we are transforming, and it's beautiful.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
Awesome.
Who do I want to be when I grow up?
Yeah,
I want
who
to
do you wanna be?
I want to be an artist.
you are an artist.
I want to be. Well, I want to paint. I'm learning to paint. I want to be a good painter, and I want to make a difference in the lives of elephants.
Elephants,
Yeah.
not others.
Everyone's
Elephants,
always
not
like,
others.
"Why
Elephants.
I just have always felt a connection with elephants, and so I'm not sure what's going to happen with that. I've talked about doing an elephant sanctuary in Texas. I'm not sure that hits a broad enough population, but and then the pottery is super fun, and I'm really enjoying that.
Yeah, so tell us all. Should tell us all now. Tell us a little bit about Two Goats Pottery, and also this art walk that you're going to be doing.
So I just made a website, and this again is that nervous and excited moment of what am I really doing, and also just stepping into it without really knowing and having made a decision about what I'm doing. But I made a website for Two Goats a year ago, and the idea was it was a couple things. It was one, to be creative. Two, I wanted more social, and like I said, that's really been happening lately. But I want a way to be creative and social and make a little bit of extra money. And so I put together this pottery on my back porch and bought a kiln and bought an extra wheel, and I love to teach people. I've had students that are just wonderful. It's a bonding experience, it's a therapeutic experience, and it's super fun. I mean, the goats are here, the dogs are here, the tortoise is here. We have our little meditation hut now.
I love that.
It's just a fun environment. And my focus actually the last 2 years has been creating businesses around what I love to do. And so I love to garden. So I have an Airbnb in my backyard, and so I can justify doing all my gardening because it's part of making the Airbnb beautiful. I love to do pottery, and I love to do art, and so I have another business that's about pottery and art, and then I love to give people beautiful places to stay, and my tenants love me, and I really enjoy working on the houses. And so that's who Jennifer is. Like, so when my friend said, you're not yourself, like, oh, now I am. I've found myself.
This is beautiful.
And I'm just, this is who I am.
Yeah.
And so it's fun and exciting, and I love learning and growing things and taking care of animals, and
I just love
makes
that.
me happy.
I love that. I love this is who I am. And
the goats are also part of the Airbnb experience.
Yeah.
And so, that's part of that business. So, just finding ways to wrap all of the things that I love into business and entrepreneurship.
Yeah,
So,
which is awesome.
Yeah.
And you too can do that.
Yay!
Yeah, wow. So I just thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Awesome.
It's a fun story to tell because right now it's got a happy ending.
Well,
and I hope and I'm comfortable with that. Yeah, and it's always evolving. Yeah.
I've known you almost 2 years now.
Yep.
Can you believe that?
Yep.
Doesn't feel like that long, huh?
Time flies.
It totally flies. And I've watched you. You weren't doing the pottery when I met you. You weren't doing the.
I was, but I wasn't.
You were, but
I
don't know that you had
my own business.
Yes,
Yeah.
And now the painting.
Yeah.
And you were just finishing this little Airbnb place. I mean, it's like I've watched this all evolve because initially when I met you, you were just Jennifer, this amazing, incredible real estate investor, corporate woman gone real estate investing. But now it's like it's evolving into this beautiful other thing of art and creativity. And I remember the first time I walked over here, I was like, oh my God, I love this house. This is my jam here. I love it.
Yeah, thank you. It's funky. It's, it's one of my mentors that I, again, loved said, don't be afraid to be rough around the edges.
No, it's beautiful.
Because we're all human, and we are all rough around the edges as much as we try to hide it.
Yes.
But if we think we have to be perfect, that will stop us and we'll get stuck. And so if you allow yourself to step into it, be rough around the edges, not have all the answers, then you'll just open up a world of creativity and give yourself a break. So
Yeah, I love it. I love it.
Yay!
Thank you. Gosh, it's so much fun.
It
No.
was.
So if you like what you've seen today, please subscribe, share, like, send it off to others. This has been an awesome experience. We are going to go over to the kiln here in a minute, and we're going to do a little pottery. So stay tuned for that. But thank you so much for being a part of it. Thank you so much for just sharing your story.
Let's go play.
Okay, yay! All right, okay.
All right.
Say hello. Say hello. You gonna say hi? Are you gonna say hi?
Chia, you're on television.
We've got one more down here. Hopefully, getting them in the camera. And then we've got Jennifer over here. So let's see. I think
That's what we were talking about rough around the edges.
yes, right?
She, the goats just
They make it
over the
fun and
camera.
interesting. Fun and interesting.
They're always into something. You want to brace your hands, brace your elbows in. And really, it's about being still, keeping the clay. And then I'm going to actually start pulling it up a little bit as I open it.
So fascinating. I would imagine it's such a skill.
You imagine what?
It's such a skill.
It takes practice.
Yeah.
You know, and
Be centered before you can center.
yeah, right? It really helps.
FYI.
I've never had Austin. I'm like, oh, I gotta slow down micro movements pulling that play right up. So we're slowing down, moving and hold, and then we'll compress the rim here. So how does it feel? Yeah, it's fun.
TwoGoatsPottery.com, people here in Austin, Texas. Come check out Jennifer Conroy. Thank you so much for sharing this. This is so
Thanks for
amazing.
coming over
Yeah.
and playing with me.
I know.
I love to play. Come play with me.
Yes, come play, come play. Oh, and what is the date of the art walk? Because you're opening your home.
Oh, so East Austin Studio Tour.
East Austin Studio Tour on the dates of
And it's November 10th and 11th,
10th and 11th. There will be
And
how many homes open?
17th and 18th. It's 2 weekends.
Mhm.
10th, 11th, 17th, 18th. There's like 500 artists all in this area that open their homes, open their studios, show their work. You can buy your Christmas gifts. I have tons of great pottery mugs. I have some new glazes that I love. So come on by. I'll have food, and we'll have here. We're gonna do a bonfire. We'll have the goats. We're gonna have music on the stage over here, and so it's gonna be awesome.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, we've
come
got
check it out.
five artists that are gonna be here
That's
as well.
awesome.
So yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah. You'll have to come back soon.
Oh, yes, for sure.
All right.
Oh,
Thanks,
I'm
everybody.
Thank you.
Oh, sorry.
No, you're good. My $8 dizzy. Hey, girlfriend.